those of you who can appreciate a person using his platform in a very effective way, most of you, I'm sure, have heard of Theo Vaughn. He's a pretty noted comedian. He's a funny guy. I like him. Regular at, Rogan's events in Austin, Texas. And he's growing his own podcast and has been doing a really great job of that. Presented without comment.
Conflict that's been happening in the Middle East, people know about it, between Israel and Palestine and some of the areas over there, the Gaza area they talk about. And I just think it feels to me, I don't know if it feels to me like it's a genocide that's happening while we're alive here in front of our lives. And I don't, sometimes I feel like I should say something. I'm not a geologist or geographer or anything like that, so I don't know a lot of.
Wait, who is this again?
Theo Vaughn.
But what is he from? Because I don't understand why
you're not listening to anything I said.
No, first of all, it's very hard to hear you because we can hear all the background noise where you are. Okay, so we hear all of that.
Little that I can do about it. Guys are loud.
But that's why it isn't very easy to hear you. No, you said he's a content creator, but we want to be promoting him.
Theo Vaughn is a comedian that has a very large platform and is now speaking out against the genocide.
Okay. Oh, he's a comedian. Okay.
Some of it I do know, though. Like, I know the basics of the issues over there, but for me, it's just like how I feel like you see all these photos of people, just children, women, people, body parts, just people like putting their kids back together. And I just can't believe that we're watching that and that more isn't said about it. And so I'm not saying anyone else needs to say anything, but I think I'm just that more isn't said about it by me. So I just, I want to be able to speak up about that I think we're watching probably like, one of the sickest things that's ever happened. And I'm sorry if I've kind of haven't said about it. I've tried to talk about it and learn about it. But I don't know. Maybe I just wanted to say something. I don't even know what to do.
That's how we all feel. That's the problem. That's the rage. That's the rage.
It's not even a rage in his mind. I think he's deeply broken by it because I think he's probably had somebody who's filled him in a way that he wasn't aware of. Maybe that was Gabor Mate's role that he filled. 4 million subscribers on YouTube, and he's putting this out there to them.
Good.
Theo Vaughn has interviewed plenty of big names, the biggest, of course, being Trump. Interviewed him just prior to the election, and it had a huge impact. When you start, there you go. Sonny FX, Theo Vaughn interviewed Norman.
Just so you know, we've had Norman on our show too.
Yeah, we're small but mighty, as Jen.
So guys, if you're new here and you see how little we are, go back and look at some of the content we've had over the past over 4.5 years, because we've gotten a lot of we get a lot of the same guests that are on shows with way more subs than us. We just do.
By the way, you remember how I told you the other day that we were at 23,100 subscribers, and you said that I'm getting ahead of myself?
Yes.
We're at 23,600 subscribers now.
Okay.
So we're definitely.
I told you were starting to sound like Rain Man with it.
Definitely. I think every 500 to 1,000, it's okay if I chime in and just let you know that, hey, things are going okay. And we've got people here. Remember, our live stream tonight, I think, has gotten up to about 280, 285 live stream viewers.
It really helps us a lot. And if you're new, please consider subscribing. Consider it. You could join her on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hi, Kumi. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for stopping by. We're fighting a good fight over here. Trying to.
This is still one of the problems that we're dealing with when it comes to the language and what people understand and don't understand. What I would implore Tammy and anybody else to understand, even though there are bad elements in every religion.
Judaism is plenty misogynistic, I got to tell you.
Extremely.
Go look at the interview we did with Dr. Sarah Glass about the book that she wrote growing up, and she grew up in a Hasidic sect in Brooklyn. There's plenty of misogyny to go around in all of it.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but have you ever been to a mosque and experienced what it's like being with their people?
That's so Gail of you to say, well, have you been?
Well, you've never been?
You haven't been. Well, no, even Gail King, like about going to space. Well, you haven't. Have you been? No, we have not been.
Well, before we continue our clip with the wonderful Theo Vaughn, Truth Bearer couldn't have said it better. You guys like to viewer ratio is amazing, means your message is massively popular when not throttled. Well, we are definitely a throttled channel. And for those of you who are new and wondering how did we become such a throttled channel, well, there were numerous instances along the way since we started it, but one in particular obviously took the cake. Jen, would you care to comment?
Wait, what are we talking about now? I'm too busy getting frustrated with some of the stuff in the chat. We need a mod, because I'm telling you right now, I'm putting this out there so seriously, you're getting ready to get into a timeout. You're not playing nice. So seriously, play nice. All right, what were you saying?
So what was the incident that we partook in that basically shadow banned our channel?
When we first started, I wanted to do an Assange-a-thon. So we did like a full day live stream with different panels to for freeing Julian Assange. So
yeah, you can see how well that worked out for us.
That didn't go over very well with the
no, definitely not. But you know what? As Jen and I have always said, we wouldn't do it any other way. So let's finish it up.
You know, and it's crazy because our country's also complicit in it. You know, it's in it and has been for a long time. And it's just kind of interesting because then you just realize, oh, well, I'm a member of this country, but I'm just, what we want sometimes doesn't matter, you know, and you just have to be a member of a place and your government is making other choices.
All right, stop for a second, because I don't want to let this.
I don't know if I said that correctly or.
Stop for a second. Do you know what this is? Because I know what it is. Do you know what NAMBLA is?
Of course I do.
Okay.
Do we have to explain it?
Well, I don't need. I was just going to make sure you understood, but I don't.
Okay, guys. So for those of you who don't know, let me take it because I'm the guy here. Okay, so for those of you who don't know what NAMBLA is, and this is something that has been talked about for a long time, although for those of you adolescent-minded adults like myself, if you've ever seen Cartman Loves NAMBLA episode of South Park, that's probably one of the best.
Your entire life's education is from South Park.
Okay, South Park is a great testament to American culture, baby.
I learned about NAMBLA in law school, actually.
So NAMBLA is the North American Man-Boy Love Association?
Yeah.
Man-Boy Love Association.
And basically it's an association where they completely condone adult men having sexual relationships with children, with boys. And they don't just condone it, they celebrate it. So there are people that are NAMBLA members. Like that's actually an organization, because I remember the first time I saw that and I thought it was a joke. No, it's not. It's very real. It's a real thing. How is that legal, you ask? Free association, but yet we can't talk about Palestine.
So, but here's what I have to, but here's what I have to tell you about South Park and why that was a great episode. So Cartman joins the organization because he's trying to make a more mature friends because he thinks he's smart and all that, blah, blah, blah. But there's a part where they're at this convention center and there's more than one NAMBLA event going on there. No, hold on. The other NAMBLA event was the North American Marlon Brando Lookalike Association.
Oh my God. I'll give you that's pretty funny mix up.
How many people come here one person?
I'm telling you, you would have liked that. But that's how you make it funny, because it's a terrible topic to have to address and talk about. At the same time, humor is able to help people get through that. Yeah, how dreaming is correct. How the frick did we even get onto this topic in the first? Oh, APAC equals NAMBLA. That's right, because you had to highlight that, Jen. So thanks a lot. Really,
I want
really
people to know what it was. I think it's relevant, and I kind of appreciate the analogy.
Fair enough.
I don't even know exactly what I said, but I just have, it's just like been making me really sick, and I feel like I just needed to say something that I think you don't have to think that. I'm not asking you to do anything. But I just have to say that so I'm not sitting by, there's that piece inside of me like, why wouldn't you, can you say something? There's people that can't even speak and you can say something, and so that's how I just had to just speak up. Anyway, I think maybe it started to make it about me there at the end, but yeah. So just praying for those people and just the grief that is all going to cause. You notice, like, what are we doing? But, and I know that this has happened to other ethnicities and other cultures. I know that it's happening to other places too. I just don't see that as much. And so.
That's the one mistake, the one and only mistake that Vaughn made in that statement. So what ends up happening in many instances, and this is one of the ways that genocide gets justified, is this idea of, well, do you care about the genocide that's happening in Yemen or yes, of course we do.
Go back to and we started talking about the genocide in Yemen in our first shows, because that's been happening since 2014. So we've been talking about it pretty continuously. Actually, that's resolved itself. That sort of started to resolve itself because the Houthis and the Saudis ended up coming to some sort of like trucey situation in there. But now we're just bombing the Yemeni, or we were. I know that supposedly we've stopped. And those are my favorite people at this point. Like, I actually would like to say, I want whatever our taxes would be here, I want to actually physically send that to the Yemeni. I want my tax dollars to go to Yemen. That's what I want, because they're the only country that's not in violation of international law regarding this genocide. So I just feel like I'd rather support them.
The other thing that you have to remember, which is crystal clear here with everything that's going on, is the argument can never be made regarding other countries and other activities going on, regardless if they're genocides or not. The Israel lobby controls our political and economic system. And so as a result, we do not actually have a current say in whether or not we can disengage. We want to disengage, and many other countries do disengage. But in our case, it's like if they go, we go. And it seems to me from an objective place, and we said this with our guest, Clint Russell, on Monday, there is a fight that happens with the populist right that doesn't happen with the populist left. When the populist right decides that they're going to fight for an issue, they're going to fight for it. And it does seem that there is a substantial portion of them, especially those that bend to the libertarian side of politics, that they are done with covering for Israel, that this has reached a point of no return. And that's a great thing to see, because they are going to stop it. That's why people like Theo Vaughn are using a 4 million plus platform to say that the genocide in Gaza has to end. And this is unacceptable.
Going the route of what happened with South Africa in terms of eventually they'll be economically beat into compliance to some extent by the rest of the world and not wanting to be pariahs. As it is, they already know that they are. That's why that the IOF soldiers turn their heads and their pictures are now the backs of their heads, because they know that they don't care. They don't care. Like, that's what's so interesting about this. I was listening, if you guys have not heard or listened to Gideon Levy, who is a journalist for Haaretz in Israel, he is like the only, I would think, functional, normal journalist that I know of that's in Israel. But, he describes the people there, just the general citizenry, like, for the most part, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that hate Netanyahu. That is true. And they want to get their hostages back. That is true too. But as far as their perception of what's going on in Gaza, their perception of the West Bank, of Palestinians in general, they really don't care. They don't care. They don't think of them as people. It doesn't really bother them. They just don't care. In fact, for the most part, prior to October 7th, most of them never even thought about it. It's just not something that they care about. And that is what people need to understand. This is an entire culture that has completely been brainwashed and propagandized to the point where I don't think they're redeemable.